Alright, so the boring stuff is finally over, and we can actually get into the verification logic itself. So we're done with the TLDR. Let's go ahead and make everything happen. And go ahead and subscribe too, just so you don't miss the remaining videos in this series. So, we've got a new branch established here called verification. And I'm going to try to do some decent Git branch management just so that way, if you're following along for just a specific video, you can check out that branch in particular and do the walkthrough yourself if you'd like to. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So server side, I want to be able to, upon user registering, I want to be able to create and craft a link. And then I want that link to be sent in an email, and I want the user to be able to click on a link. And we've got kind of a multi-step process here. So I'm actually going to start with generating the email link, just making sure we've got everything hooked up correctly first. So we'll want to look at our registration route first and foremost. It's not really doing anything except for just responding with a message. So we need this to be what triggers the actual mailer function off. So I've got that little mail utility here called mail. I might create some services, like a services folder, and have distinct mail functions in there, or I might just kind of do some of them in line, and we'll see how this plays out. We'll adjust things on the fly, see how we like it, For now, I'm just going to go ahead and import this mail function inside of the route and just write, an email in line there. So the create function of the messages API, I believe, returns a promise. Yes. So we need to await those results. So we'll get that function imported here. And this requires that object of the toProp, fromProp, subjectProp, and HTMLProp. So let's go ahead and get those crafted. The toProp, well, who's it going to? Well, we've got the email property available there. Presumably, that's the user who's registering. So to email. Easy enough. From, we get to choose the string itself. So what I'm going to do is I'll make a little kind of like tag here. Registration. Let me make sure I spell it right. Registration. Okay. And Alabama education, y'all. Spelling. And let's see. And I'll put a domain here. Or like do not reply or something. We can do whatever we want there, but that's just going to be my from. It doesn't really matter all that much as long as it's like a valid format. So just an email by itself, or like an email with like a little alias tag. Subject is going to be please verify your account. And finally, the HTML is going to be an HTML string. Now I'm using the ES6 shortcut because I'm actually going to write that variable up here. The reason why I like Mailgun is because we don't have to send just raw text. You can actually do like inline HTML, which is what we'll do. So I'll do a little paragraph. Thank you for registering. Please click here to, and then we'll do a URL. So we'll set up a little anchor tag. We'll put the link text back in place there. And then the actual URL, let's see. I've got the URL defined as an environment variable here just because I'm doing this on localhost, and you would need something like this to be able to toggle between local development and your production environment. So, environment variables. We're not just using them to secure, credentials, but actually help us toggle between environments, kind of like their primary intent used as, a secondary purpose. But let me import my config object, and I'm pretty sure I've got it under like a domain.url umbrella, but we'll see in a sec. So the reference is gonna be, and man, it's hard because I want to write React at the moment. My brain's short-circuiting, but trying to just do a regular string, crazy. So it's gonna be config.domain.url. Okay, like I thought. And then this is going to be our client side. Our route. So I do want to make a verify page. So we'll make verify the page itself. And then I need to have some kind of query params here. I do want to have the token or a token here in the URL. How can I truly certify that any of these requests we're about to do are made by us? So what we're going to do is we're going to create those little short-lived JWTs that I talked about in the previous video that are valid for just 15 minutes. So that way we can add them to the query params in the URL. And if we can safely validate them, we know that we signed them and we can trust the data within them, which is just going to be the email. But that's what we're going to add as our query parameters here in this. So that means that above this, we actually have to come back here and create that token. So I do have that utility file here called getTempToken. And the payload that it requires is just an object with an email property. So that keeps it pretty simple and sweet for us. So VS Code is going to help us with that named import, getTempToken, email. Boom. So token is a true JWT that we now have. And we can add that as a query param here. So token is going to equal our token variable. And one thing I like to do is in the event verification fails for some reason, thinking ahead of our server-side route that we'll eventually have to define, I like to have the email there as just kind of a fallback in the query params themselves. So that way, if I can't validate the information in the token, if it's expired or something, I can resend an email to the email from the query params. So even if somebody has access to your email account and they're trying to grab your URL and then maybe change the token to one with their information in it, if we can't validate it, I mean, it's just going to make them get their own validation email. There's really not anything that kind of can go awry with that. Nothing that, it's not going to allow illegitimate users to gain access to anything. It's only going to let legitimate users verify if we can validate that we were the ones that signed that token and it's still valid. So I just like having this as kind of a fallback. If it fails, we can at least resend the email. So that way, we do have a nicer experience for our legitimate users, And depending on what kind of features we are going to expect at a later date, I might even have a query param saying what type of attempt we're trying to do here, because we might have a magic link verification or a password reset verification link that we click on. So it could be one of those two, or possibly even just a regular verification. So I'm going to go ahead and add that extra little bit of context in here, may as well. So I'll say and type equals verify. Why not? Alright, so we're going to get this really long string here. that's going to be the link. The user's going to get this email and click on it. And so we need to have client-side a verify page that can extract that info out. So let's go ahead and save our server-side code so far. So step one, we've got it, we can send the mail. And I'm going to adjust the success message to say user was successfully registered, check email to verify account. All right, so client side, I need a verify page that we can at least land on to get those query params. So let's go ahead and do just that. And we're going to be using some of React Router DOM's hooks here in order to extract those query params out and then kind of daisy chain them to a server-side route we haven't written yet. And one thing I like to do is I do this pretty commonly. I just do like minimum viable product for a lot of like components or views, and then just get everything linked up. I do this not only just for client side stuff, but through a lot of software development features. Just make sure I have everything linked up, and then once everything is kind of taken care of, all the nitty gritty, I can then go ahead and work on making more detailed parts of that component or view. Alright, so VS Code helped me auto import the verify view. And now we have a path linking to that. So theoretically, now when I register, I should be able to get the email, click on the link, and it will take me to this page, which just says verify. I'm kind of an idiot, and this project is my first foray into Material UI, so I'm not really all that familiar or well experienced with it. So any new client-side stuff is going to either be like really slow to implement or really ugly, but I'm not going to be able to make it fast or pretty at the moment, at least not in the middle of a video. So, but in theory, we should be able to land on a new page. And then grab everything in that context. So yeah, sorry, just trying to refresh myself with like some stuff that I've done style-wise. Okay. All right, so I don't want to focus on that too terribly long, but let's go ahead and extract everything out of the URL utilizing the use location hook from React Router DOM. Right. And like I was talking about, I'm just gonna throw everything just kind of as is. I'd like to do these minimum viable products, so we'll be able to see the query params show up on the page itself in the H1. So we just land on the page, the use location hook is invoked, and we just show the token, blah, blah, blah. We're not actually making that backend request, but this is at least showing us that we have our registration logic linked with our mailer logic, and that we are able to receive that email and actually click on that link to get to this page. So let's go ahead and test that out, because these are a lot of changes that we've done without a test quite yet. So And in the last video, let's see, I forgot to run my server, or I was at least running my start script and not my dev script. Oh, it looks like I actually am running my server somewhere. Let me make sure it's not something else. Oh wait, no, I was literally just looking at the site. What am I thinking? So there's also a fundamental flaw with my test data. I was saving, my users as test@test.com. But if we need to use email validation to validate our user, who owns test.com? I have no idea. Do they even have a mail server? Who knows? So I have no idea who that email might be going to. So I actually need to register with an email account I truly own. So I'm going to use my work email. And I'm just going to keep on using Hunter2 as all of my test data for now. Never, ever, 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 ever use that for production data ever. It's been found in like 24,000 breaches, according to Have I Been Pwned. I make sure all of my students, are very well acquainted with that. But let me register with these credentials. User was successfully registered. Check email to verify account. Excellent. So let me come over here. And we'll give Mailgun a second because it sometimes will batch it and it takes a little minute for it to update batches of emails. There we go. From registration, from auth@atlc.dev, thank you for registering. Please click here to verify your account. So this is pretty fancy. Like, we just did this. It's only like half of the process, but we're getting close. So that takes us to, you can't really see the URL, I guess, in this video, but it links to localhost 3000/verify, and then all of our query params. So we land on the page, and we're able to extract all of these query params out, which is great. All right, now I'm just kind of like crappily throwing it all on the page, but I do want to just take this and daisy chain it server side, and we can have a server side route that validates everything here. So let's go do that. So we'll put this on pause for now, client-side wise, and then we're gonna go ahead and create a new route. So I'm gonna create a new auth route called verify, or a new file. We might have multiple verifications that we do in here. All right. So creating a new router. And then, just like I was doing with my functional component. Oh man, I cannot type for the life of me right now. So just kind of like with my functional component, is this something that I created and is exportable? Yes. Can I import it elsewhere and get it linked up? Yes. Will I do that so I can directly focus on working on this now because I don't have to worry about any of the other nitty-gritty after that point? Yes. Yes, I am. So and then some control D action when I double click that. There we go. We now have our verification router linked up. So like I said, I really want to make this kind of just like a GET request that I can just daisy chain everything downstream. So in order to get into this request itself, we have to start with /auth/verify, and then from there we can extract out our query params. So const, what's going to be in our query params? Let's see. Let me go destructure them from rec.query. We're going to have our token, our email, and our type. And I'm just kind of using these two as kind of like placeholders for, like I said, nicer features. In the event that verification fails of our token, we can resend the email. And then later on, type is maybe I want to reuse this route for verifying magic links, or maybe verifying password reset temp tokens, we'll see. But just that extra little bit of context in the URL could, I don't know, definitely help make this a lot more extensible. So, and no matter what, I guess I'm going to make sure I send all of them. So we'll just check to see if they are defined. And I'm pretty consistent with my error messages, no matter what. Every single bad response I might have, it will always have a message property. And so that way I can very, very, very consistently expect error messages on my client side. Cool. So missing requisite query params. Excellent. So after this point, we can be sure that token, email, and type at least exist. So let's set up our little try-catch block here. Because the JWT library itself, if it cannot validate a token, if you're not using the callback structure, it's going to throw an error. So if it can't validate it, we're going to get that thrown. So and I think I do have I think I do have a utility for decoding the token. I can't remember if I do or not. Yes, I have this verify function. So I pass the token in. I should rename that to token instead of just data. I'll pass the token in, and then it's going to see if it can verify it. So okay, so since token is coming from query params, they might actually think it could be like an array. Like if you had token assigned multiple times in there, so I could do like a type of check. I could also just like do a cast of token here. We could also do like, or if type of token does not equal string. If I do that, it would resolve that. So if this fails, it means that it wasn't a string, and if that, if we're able to get past that, that means it doesn't fail that check, aka it must be a string. That's all TypeScript's kind of trying to get us to do, just as like a guard, but I'm just going to lazily do it as a cast here and say cast token as a string. So if for some reason that verification fails, maybe somebody was trying to be sneaky. They saw the format of our URLs and they tried to put their own token there in the URL instead. Well, that verify function, our server's going to say, whoa, 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 we didn't sign that token. Like it's a valid structure. It might even, still be unexpired, but I was not the signer of that token. It did not emanate from my server. And so that's going to throw an error. So that's kind of why I like, this. I can say like if the type is equal to verify, that means I can just resend that verification email. But let me go ahead and status code wise, I don't want to like 401 them per se. I might just stick with like a general 500 here. I'll say unable to validate token, please check email for new verification link. And so we'll resend it here. If we are actually able to verify this token, though, if it doesn't fail, that means we can trust the information on the interior. And what do we put on the interior of these short-lived tokens? The email. So we might not trust the email fully for query from the query params, because anybody could take that URL and put whatever junk we put in there. We kind of just use it as a fallback. And the reason why we use it as a fallback is because if an error gets thrown from being unable to verify the token, we don't have scope of what's in the token payload. I guess we could just do like the token.decode in this catch block, and we could resend it that way. But yet again, if we just do token.decode without verification, it's an untrusted value. So why would I go through the extra steps of taking an untrusted value from within the token, whereas I could just take the untrusted value from the email and resend that verification? Because no matter what, like, it doesn't matter whose email in there. The only email account that matters is like the email gets sent to whoever's request is made. Like, you can't intercept anybody else's, and you can't take their credentials and make your account get verified. So it's for that reason that I'm like, yeah, let's stick it in a query param and like save ourselves a little bit of logic just to resend it. So if we can verify it, however, I've got types defined for these payloads. Let me move them into my application types here and export them out so I can reuse them. Alright, so login payload, temp payload. Let me import those in my utility file. There we go. And then it won't know exactly what it's returning, so let me just cast that on the side here. So payload is going to have that .email property, and after this point we can trust payload.email because we know at this point in time on this line of code it was us who signed that token and put that specific email in there. So this is a trustable value now. And so we can use this to mark a user as verified. So let's go import our users query file. And I always like to, I don't know why, but I always like to import that my query functions with a capital U. I don't use ORMs. Personally, I just do raw SQL. I like it low level. I don't mind it at all. But I always like to import it with a capital letter, and I always like to keep my naming conventions so it reads ORM-like. And that is kind of a nice benefit for you guys too, because if you're used to ORMs, it still reads out very kind of intuitively that way. And so I can do await users dot, and remember, we set up that verify function that takes an email as the argument, and it sets the is verified status equal to 1 for a user with that email. So just like that, this is all the logic we need for verification. Like, I know we had to set up some express routes, and I know we had to set up some client-side code to receive the URL, but this will let us verify that user account. And if we wanted to, we really could log the user in if we wanted at this point in time. That would require us doing like some database lookup of the user itself. So like it'd be a few extra steps, but we could grant them like a login token here because we need the ID in addition to the email for the token. If we didn't have the ID, we actually could sign like a true login token instead of our like little temporary tokens here and issue that. Because yet again, this is a trustable value. This email is the email that we ourselves packaged up and signed, and we have verified it was our signature that encapsulated that token. So that is all Gucci at that point. So yeah, this is the good stuff. The bad stuff. What happens if this fails? Well, we'll want to recall this mailer function, this mail function, and we'll want to resend what we sent for the register. Now this, like I was saying, we have all of this stuff that we probably need to repeat again, right? So I kind of want to abstract this out into a registration email. So let me make a services folder. And let's just create a function that does all of this for us. So let's see. I need to import get temp token, and I need to import the mail utilities, and then I need to import my config file. So we're going to define a single source of truth here because we are already having to reuse this twice now. And then instead of awaiting that, we'll just return this. So send registration email, takes that email as a string, and it does all of the same stuff we've done previously, which is create that HTML string, generates a token with the email encapsulated in it, and it adds our query params, and then we fire it off. So we have a single source of truth of what a registration email is like. So now, instead of this, I can just import that function in our registration logic. We'll dump all of that. And await send registration email to whom? That email. So that cleans this up nicely, and it's great because those several lines of code that we would have to repeat exactly as is, we're going to do the exact same down here. And so same deal, email is going to be coming from query params, so they need to make sure that it's just a singular entity, as we would, with token. I might actually have some use case for like checking type as well. So let me just do the type of checks here, I guess. We probably could make this a little more kind of streamlined too. Like I could put token email and type in an array, and then do like array.every and make sure every value is truthy and type of is. Actually, let's do that because this is getting pretty crappy as is. This is some ugly ass code. Look at that. What is this, like 200 columns on one line? No, thank you. So instead, let's do this. Alright, so we'll just create a little anonymous array of token, email, type and so we'll actually check if not every, and I'll call every query param QP because I kind of like that. It's a cute little name. If not every one is truthy, or if, hold on, man, Boolean logic and me, right? Boy. So let's think this out. We're going to do array.every, and for every query param, we're going to return where the query param is truthy and where the type of QP is equal to string. Okay, so that's going to be what we want to be the good case. So we're checking for the bad case, so we'll do not there. And that means that if we had more, it could expand. It would expand out a little more nicely. That being said, let me still break this into new lines now, just for some breathing room. Oh, but it still won't necessarily know like which one of them failed. It could be any one of them that fails. So I'd have to do like the inverse case and like encapsulate everything in an if. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, well, I could also assert or cast that as a string too, but you know, I'm trying to be a good developer and make sure I have everything validated for. So you know, we're gonna go ahead and validate all of our query params. Okay, so that's a fun endeavor. We do have, let's see, some good resilient code with this. And now I can say if type is equal to verify. Oh wait, send registration. And the reason why I'm doing that if check is because, like I said, we might actually reuse this for a couple different verifications. But this means if I fail verification for any reason, kind of gives us a better user experience by letting our user just click on the next link in case they waited too long. So everything is linked up. Our verify page, if this can just communicate to our if it can just communicate to our server, then that's the final piece of the puzzle. So instead of just like showing that on the page, let's go ahead and get some fetch and action in place. All right. So we'll make a fetch request to /auth/verify. That's our server-side route, and we need to dump all those query params. So the query parameters themselves come from, you know, loc.search. That's what we were looking at just there below. And loc.search does automatically include that question mark. Geez, thanks, Andrew. Alright, so gonna go ahead and grab that, and I know that I've got my fancy stuff on the login. I'm just going to use the standard browser alert here. And just kind of alert the message in the event some kind of networking error happens. Nothing should. I'm not going to deliberately throw an error. I might, actually. I don't know. We'll see. Otherwise, we'll throw up a console error. So as you guys have seen, I am extremely consistent with my response structure. I will always send JSON data regardless of whether or not it is a healthy response or an error. And so I can always, no matter what, safely parse everything, and then I can do conditional evaluation to see what I should display. So. And so if the response is okay, that means that I was able to successfully verify everything. And so like I could navigate them to, you know, the home page or something now. Actually, let me do that. Let's see. So send a JSON response with a dot message, successfully verified user account. Yeah, I can do like an alert and then like navigate them back to the home page. So totally up to you what you want to do. And you know, I want to alert the message property no matter what. So I send up a message property regardless if there's an error or if it's not an error. So you know, we're always going to have that. So that works out nicely for us. And again, super sorry, MUI. It would take me a little while to code out the full nice form that I had to start. So I'm not going to do that fancy alert. We'll just use the ugly browser default alert. But if the response is okay, we'll pull in the nav component and we'll go to the home page. Only if the response is okay. Otherwise, we'll console.error the entire data object. Okay, that's good enough for me. So we land on this page, we extract the query params out, the URL, and the beautiful part about that is we don't have to do any parsing here. We don't have to create like a URL search params, you know, constructs. We just grab them and then basically throw them back to the server. So that's why I was like, hey, let's make this a GET request and let's use query params. Just keep it easy on ourselves, you know? So that's why, because this is all it entails. So we should be able to land on this page, have our server validate everything, and if it fails, we will at least know, and this is going to say like, hey, go check your email. But if it passes, it's actually going to mark our user as complete. So let me go ahead and select all from my users table. And you know, both of these we can note have the is verified status of 0. Actually need to dump the users now, so whoops, bye-bye. So we nuked our users from our table, and the reason why I had to nuke them is because I need to, you know, re-register with that same account. So let's go check this out. So I go to this, I'm going to refresh the page. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, register. And so this register logic, it's going to hit my registration route on the server, which sends that email, which is what it was doing formerly. But now that email sends a link. That link makes us land on this page with some query params. We extract the query params ourselves and just send them to our server-side auth verify route. That server-side verify route is going to go ahead and extract those query params out, make sure they're present, and they're also going to make sure that we were the ones who signed that token. If we did not sign that token, that data is not going to get trusted. It's going to throw an error, and we're just going to go ahead and resend the registration email. Otherwise, if we can trust the data, that means that we can take that trusted email from within the token that we extracted out, and send it to the verification function. So we are now able to verify that user account. So let's go ahead and hit register. User was successfully registered. Check email to verify account. Fantastic. Let's go look at our database. So we've got my user with is verified equaling 0. Good. That's what we want it to be. Oh, the other part of this, by the way, before I go click on the token, the exciting part, to block registration, or to block logging in, what do we have to do? Well, now that I have the verification logic done, here's my typical login logic. We make sure the user is found, and then we make sure the passwords match up. And if they do, this is typically where we log them in. But we can prevent that now. We can say if not user.isVerified, we'll resend, we'll resend the email. But otherwise, if they are verified, they're able to get into this block here and we send the token. So what I'll do here is I'll say 403, technically speaking, because we know who they are. They just have not verified their account yet. Please check your email and verify your account. And then so here we can import that send verification utility or service. What did I name that? Send registration email. Duh. Okay. So all we have to do is just resend it here in case they're not verified. This is gonna, it's gonna prevent our user from logging in. So here is where if they are verified, they can log in, but if they're not, we just resend that registration email and be like, yo, you please don't try to log in until you've actually verified everything. So what's the email? Well, user.email, like we just found that, or email from the rec params. That's how we found the user, so that, or rec.body, and that's how we found them. So either of those is appropriate. So we'll do that, and we can actually test this feature before the verification feature. If I try to go log in with those account credentials now, it's going to come down here and say, yo, that user's not verified. It's going to resend that email for me. So we change this to my test data, which I'm actually using a real email for this because I have to really check an email. But we'll hit login, and here we go. Please check your email and verify your account. So it should have resent that. So there is our email from 3 minutes ago when I first, registered that new account. And here is where it was like, hey, by the way, guess what? You try to log in, nope, you're not doing that. So finally, the feature we've been waiting for. I'll click on this. Oh, and I forgot to make the render look nicer, but it says successfully verified user account, and it should navigate me back to the homepage where, oh hey, be sure to like and subscribe to keep seeing our content. But let's go check the database now. So is verified with 0, and this should now be 1. Ta-da! So we have that user ID of 3 with the is verified value of 1. So here we were able to block logins until they were verified and then actually verify the account. So I know this was a bit of work and this was a bit longer than most of these videos that I do, but this step, the verification, is absolutely fundamental to every one of these downstream steps. So I really need to make sure that everything was, spoken through very thoroughly and explained. If you have any questions, please drop a comment and let me know. Or if you'd like to see some features get implemented in the next couple upcoming weeks, let me know, because we otherwise have some cool videos. So, like I said, we've got some cool features coming up, and those will entail, now that we can verify our users own the emails that they're using, are password resets, magic link logins, which are a lot of fun, and even multi-factor authentication with 6-digit codes, which is also very, very fun. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and subscribe so you can see the next few in the series, and until then, I'll see you later.